Wow, we're on air right now.
Yes.
So hello to viewers and hello Sangmin and Tosan.
Hello.
Hello Tosan. How's it going?
I'm a bit busy.
Bit busy.
Doing pretty good, yes.
Are you sweating right now?
Yeah, a little bit.
A little bit sweating. Alright, and today we are having a special guest from Korea. Hi, Sangmin. Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Nice talking to you in person. Finally.
Finally, yes.
I could meet you. And this is English Hours. This is an English program that we are going to focus on some specific topics and talking about some specific topics and with some guests. And today we have a special guest from Korea and called Sangmin, who is a TOEIC teacher.
Well,
how would you like to be called? How would you like to be called?
I wouldn't call myself as a TOEIC teacher, but well, I would say I'm more like evangelist to promote TOEIC in Japan. By the way, even though I'm from Korea, I live in Yokohama in Japan.
Right now.
Oh, really? Okay.
Right.
I've lived in Japan for the last 12 years.
Ah, all right. I thought you lived in Korea or America. Do you go to the college in America?
Let me briefly introduce myself.
Right, and yeah, could you tell us a little bit about yourself right now?
Yes, so, well, I was born and raised up in Korea, and I went to university in Korea, and I actually majored in architecture for about 2 years. Then in Korea, military service is something that as a man, we had to join. So I did that, and right after I finished military service in Korea, I went to Australia as a working holiday visa. So I live in Australia for a year.
Why you?
Then I came to Japan. That was back in 1998. And I lived in Japan for 2 years, and I studied Japanese for 2 years. That's where I got my Japanese initially. Then I decided to study.
They're always speaking.
Yes, you guys can just forget that guy.
No, we can't.
Is he angry?
I don't know. He's upset. Right. Did you turn it off?
Yeah, I just shut it.
Right.
I wouldn't mind. I wouldn't mind seeing that robot all the time. I kind of like that.
Yeah.
So, well, let's resume my introduction. So, after I lived in Japan for 2 years, I decided to study computer science instead of further pursuing architecture. So I went to Canada to get my degree in computer science. So I lived in Canada for about 4 years. So
4 years?
Yes, I did my bachelor's degree in computer science in Canada. Then I got a job in India.
Really?
Yes. So I went to India, and I lived in a place called Bangalore, which is a southern part of India. And so that was 2004. Then the company that I worked for in India, they also had the Japan office. So they sent me to Japan since I was able to speak Japanese. So they wanted to get a skill. So I came to Japan. When was it? 2005. Since 2005, I lived in Japan, and I have worked as a mainly software engineer and project manager. And until last year, I worked for Nomura Securities as a software engineer. Then I quit my job. Then I started my own company. It's called Choi Mirai. And the company is currently what we are doing is we are importing books from Korea because mainly the TOEIC related books because the business the TOEIC market in Korea is quite big, and there are a lot of companies who are running this business for the TOEIC test takers. So what we are currently doing is we are importing those books, and we sell those books to the Japanese test takers. And we also try to provide some online virtual courses for those who want to practice and learn what is required to have a higher score in TOEIC. That's it. That's about me.
Great. Seems like you have a wide variety of cultural backgrounds.
Yeah, I could say I have quite good, understanding of different, cultural aspects of different countries.
And how many languages do you speak as of now?
Well, I speak 3 languages. So Korean, which is my native tongue, and Japanese and English. Yes.
Oh, great. Last month I went on a trip to Korea.
Yeah,
I stayed in Myeongdong
and
I visited some universities and had a conversation with students there.
Okay.
In English, about TOEIC tests and about their future plans and so many wide variety of topics.
And do you speak Korean?
Yeah, mainly. Most of them were Koreans.
What about you, Saren? Do you speak?
You asking me? No, I don't speak Korean.
Okay.
Right.
Because there are a lot of Japanese who these days can speak Korean.
Oh yeah, so Korean pop cultures is very popular here.
K-pop, right?
Yeah.
Right. And in 2007, what brought you to Japan?
In
business?
2007, well, the company that I work for, they actually sent me to Japan. So I came to Japan as a business trip. Then I actually settled in here, and we right now live in Yokohama. So I'm married, and I have a little girl who is 5 now.
5. Cool. And I just
this is the Father's Day present that I got from my daughter.
Daisuki.
Yeah, that says Papa and Daisuki.
That's right.
How do you feel about it?
Well, quite grateful.
Right. So today we're going to cover a wide variety of topics, and my understanding is, so on Twitter, what you're focusing on nothing but the TOEIC test, right? You're preaching and you are sharing many information. There's some information with your followers on Twitter about the TOEIC test, mainly.
That's right.
Am I right?
Yes, correct.
Yeah, so today we're going to talk about the TOEIC test and what we can benefit from taking the TOEIC test.
What do you think about TOEIC? Let me rephrase that question a little bit. So what do you guys think about TOEIC test? Because I'm asking this question because there are many people who do not like the test.
Who? What?
There are many people who do not like.
All right. So Toshi-san, how about you? Are you for it or against?
Are you saying that many people who don't like TOEIC because they don't think that test proves the English ability, or are you saying that a lot of people who don't like TOEIC because they don't like English?
Well, I don't know, but I just know that there are many people who are against about.
Okay.
Yeah, as an attitude.
Yeah.
In my honest opinion, I don't think the TOEIC can measure the speaking. I'm talking about the listening and the reading TOEIC test.
Yeah.
So
you're focusing on it.
that test measures on just listening and reading.
Yeah, comprehension.
Yeah. So comprehension, as far as the measuring comprehension skill, I think it does certain work, and but it doesn't improve your speak and writing skill. So I'm not against it, but I know what you mean, because I've heard some people saying that I don't think that just because you have a high score in TOEIC, that doesn't mean you have a good communication skill.
No.
But then I don't know if there's any test that completely improves your English ability in 4 skills.
Oh, that's a good point. That's a good point.
Yeah. So to answer your question, I know what TOEIC is. I'm not against it, and it does a certain job as it is.
Right.
And for me personally, I'm mainly for it. So when it comes to taking a TOEIC test, so it's a matter of how we can utilize the TOEIC test, how we can take it. So because we can arrange as we like,
right?
And depending on what we want. So it's a matter of how we can utilize the TOEIC test. That's my understanding and my position.
Okay.
How do you feel about it?
See, here's the thing, right? And Toshi-san, I think you had very good point about the TOEIC. It cannot measure the one's proficiency in speaking of English. But here's what I believe, right? So, yeah, I know that in Japan, the speaking has gathered quite importance. I don't know why, but for me, based on my experience right now, reading and listening, they are even more important than speaking, because we live in the after internet world.
Right.
What I mean by after internet world is, see, right now there are a lot of information that are available in internet, and it is your choice to go in there and gather those information and use them for whatever benefit that you can gather from those information. And for that, I think probably I say more people can get benefits from knowing, reading, and listening of English than speaking of English, because there are not many people who actually need to use speaking English in their day-to-day lives. But for reading and listening, I think now it is more important than any other, those speaking and writing skills of English. And I think that is something that people do not fully understand in Japan.
Yeah, I think that to learn something, that English, those for example, if you're talking about the websites on the internet, there's a lot more websites in English available, right? So say you want to get information about something, and if you can read English, and of course it gets much easier to get that information you want because it's available there in English. But if you only use Japanese to search for something, like you said, I think it's a very limited information resource you can use.
Yes.
Right.
See, the company name that I founded is Choi Mirai.
Choi Mirai.
Choi Mirai is a word that I made up. So Choi Mirai means it's near future, right? Japanese Choi means a little, and Mirai is a future, right? And I named the company Choi Mirai because I believe that, see, the future is already here with us in somewhere. But the problem is it hasn't been just evenly distributed because the information is not shared evenly.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
people can better read English even in Japan. I believe that they can gather more information and they would be able to use them for their work or to benefit their own personal lives.
All right, so my question is, so Sangmin, do you believe that the best way of improving English is taking the TOEIC test in this world? What do you think about it?
Yes.
Why not TOEFL? Why not IELTS? Why TOEIC?
Why TOEIC? That's a very good question. See, I think there are many different reasons for people to take a certain exam. Because, some people, they probably prefer to take TOEFL because they want to pursue higher education in North America. And some people, on the other hand, probably take IELTS because they want to pursue higher education in, UK or in Commonwealth countries, right? But see, TOEIC is different from those tests because what TOEIC is for is it will measure plainly, business, the English communication in more business context. And see, for me, my TOEIC experience is rather short because I took the first TOEIC test in March this year.
This year?
Yes.
Really? And you got the perfect score.
That's right. I got the perfect score. And the first mock test. Mock test means for the people who don't understand what mock test is. Mock test is a test that you will take to prepare the actual test. So when I first took the mock test in February this year, the impression that I got was it was really good because the expressions and the paragraphs that are used in the mock test was very similar to what I had experienced in my work experience. So what I realized was that if someone can actually prepare for the TOEIC test, the person, she or he, could actually increase their communication skill in English in business context in rather structured way, because the TOEIC test, it will test you many different aspects of English. For example, in terms of reading and listening, there are different the abilities that TOEIC test actually test. If, for example, whether you can understand short sentences, or whether you can fully understand after you listen relatively longer sentences. And also in terms of reading, there are parts for grammar and also vocabularies and also reading comprehensions in terms of to read two or multiple paragraphs and gather certain information out of those paragraphs. So those are very important aspects of understanding English and using English in your work life. And I haven't seen any other test that could actually measure one's ability in English communication other than TOEIC.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. So because the TOEIC test is a well-made test, which measures reading comprehension and listening comprehension in order to fully understand English written and spoken in business context.
Right. And
what you wanted to?
Recently, the ETS is the organization that are, the organization that are developing and the organizing all these TOEIC tests. They also probably have developed the TOEFL as well. What
Right.
they have recently announced was that so far the TOEIC test, the name of the test was TOEIC. Excuse me. The name of the test was TOEIC test, but like 2 weeks back, they changed the name to now TOEIC listening and reading test, and also they and they changed the name to emphasize that the TOEIC listening and reading test is specialized in testing one's ability of listening and reading, and at the same time, the ETS, they have another set of tests which is called TOEIC speaking and writing test, which can measure the language learners' ability of speaking and writing in English. And I plan to take that test next month, like September 4th. This will be my first time to actually take the TOEIC speaking and writing test to understand what the test is also about.
So are you gonna take the speaking and writing test?
Yes.
For the first time.
For the first
next month.
Next month.
All right. So Toshi-san, how do you feel about it so far?
Oh yeah. So you're taking the speaking and writing test. So I have a question. You said the articles like part 7.
Yes.
And those the articles you read there, like emails and the stuff, and they're very similar with the stuff the stuff that people deal with at work, right?
Right, and on a daily basis.
And yeah, so I agree with that, and I agree with that. The TOEIC is very good for measuring the comprehension, and the comprehension is very important skill for learning stuff in English. But here in Japan, I don't know why so many people are just crazy for listening and the reading test only. And you're taking the speaking and writing, right?
Yes.
And I think that should be as popular as taking the listening and reading TOEIC test. So I don't know why speaking and listening are not really, that test is not really popular here.
Popular as listening and reading. Well, I think that's a very good point. And for me, well, I have prepared the speaking and writing test for about 2 weeks now, and there's quite difference between those two set of tests, right? For the listening and reading, you can do it just by yourself, right? You just listen and you buy the preparation books, and you can just do it, prepare the test by yourself, and you will be able to get the perfect score someday if you put your effort and time enough into that test. But I think for the speaking and writing, you probably need to have more guidance from someone else. For example, for example, the speaking, right? For speaking, it has about 6 parts, similar to what we have in listening and reading tests. In listening, we have part 1, part 2, part 3, and part 4, and in reading we have part 5, 6, and 7. So likewise, in speaking we have 6 different sections, and to actually get the high score, I think you probably need to work with someone who will guide you to give you how can I put it? To give you what to give you the good samples of how to prepare the test. For example, like the first part is read out loud. So the set of text will be given to you in a computer screen. Then you have to read it as close as what the native speaker would read the sentence. And for that, you probably need to understand, not only pronunciation, but also, accents, and also the, what is it? The accent and pronunciation, and I just forgot the right word for the different, flow of reading, sentence.
Inappropriate vocabulary?
Yes, that is also, something that you probably need to be familiarized with to have higher score in, TOEIC speaking and writing tests as well.
So it's hard to prepare. It's hard to prepare for it by yourself.
That's how I felt.
Right, and what you're saying here is that if you get the higher score on the a speaking and writing test, the best way to get the higher score is study with a tutor or a teachers or something like that.
I think so.
I
think so.
Right. Yeah, speaking and writing are totally different from listening and reading comprehension. That is called passive abilities, right?
Right. Well, even I think even the speaking and writing test, even though you get higher score in speaking and writing test, you probably need to practice English in actual life, because usually what all these tests is doing is it is more they are conducted in predetermined set of situations, right? But it doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that in real life, right?
Right. In reality, no.
So yeah, that is something that probably is people have to think about it.
Yeah, I think that's a limit of speaking tests. In this fixed situation, you can prepare for it, but in real life communication, you cannot prepare for it. It's totally improvisation.
Yeah, unexpected things are going on. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, test is test. The test is always a test.
So that's the thing, right? See, even for listening and reading tests, for me, 900 to have 990, which is the perfect score in the test, it's just a start line in terms of using English.
Oh, that's a good point. That's a good point. It's not a goal, right? Just a starting point.
And even though you get 990 score, if you're going to do something in English that is not even close to have.
No.
So that is something that people should be aware.
Right. Even though I got 985 on the IP test last month.
Wow, you have 985.
But I still have a long way to go. I'm far away from perfection.
Yeah, me too. The last talk that I took, I think I remember 970.
Oh.
And yeah, it was not perfect score. I think I probably just made a mistake somewhere.
And Tosan, what do you feel about it? So what did you benefit from taking that kind of score, high score, 970 only?
Well,
what did you benefit from it?
What did I benefit from the score itself? I can put that on my resume.
Oh, right.
That's true.
It works.
And that's why many reasons take TOEIC, right? It helps for their job hunting.
Right. Yeah.
And I would say at least in Japan, that's why it's popular. But also other benefits. I think it motivates a lot of people to learn English because this is what one of my friends said. He likes TOEIC because it kind of proves your achievement. So without any, it doesn't have to be TOEIC, but without any test that proves the achievement, he cannot really feel like what he has achieved in learning English. So I think that somewhere along the way of learning English, people need to feel that they've
accomplished
learned something, right? So I would say that's like another benefit you get out of taking tests like a TOEIC. But I think this applies to not only TOEIC, but also a lot of other English tests as well. But TOEIC is like a combination of the proof of your achievement of English learning and something you can put on a resume.
It's a good combination.
Yes.
Sangmin, what do you think about it?
Well, see, as
putting the score on the resume with work for Japanese companies is a good point. It's a good weapon, strong weapon, right? For job hunting.
Right. So
in Japan.
I mean, yeah, TOEIC is very it is functioning pretty well as a test. And without the TOEIC score, maybe I couldn't be English teacher. I teach English sometimes. And
thanks to it.
Yes, but I cannot deny the fact that part of the reason why TOEIC is popular is because the companies consider the test score of the TOEIC as the proof of your English, and it makes your resume look a lot better if you have high score. So that there are like those benefits people get out of taking TOEIC or studying for TOEIC, in my opinion.
Right. But Sangmin-san was saying that the TOEIC test is good for the starting point, right?
That's right.
Yeah. So I agree with that. It's a combination. It's like
two sides.
Yes.
Of the benefits, right?
So as I mentioned earlier, see, preparing TOEIC, that is really good, but people shouldn't stop there, right?
Sure.
To actually master English and to do it in one's day-to-day life, I strongly advise that to learn something in English.
Yeah, it's a immersion.
Right.
Yeah. What Sangmin-san was saying is that getting the highest score on the TOEIC test is just a passing point, right?
Right. So, and with the power of internet, right? And these days there are a lot of online classes that you can take for free. For example, I'm not sure whether you guys are familiar with, but there are a lot of services such as Udacity or edX, Coursera. You can take the courses that schools like Harvard, MIT, Stanford, they offer. For me, I started my master's degree 2 years back from Georgia Tech. So now I'm taking a master's degree in computer science from Georgia Tech, and I don't have to go to the school because everything is done online.
Oh, really? You're taking it online?
Yes.
All right. And I'm pretty sure Toshan is very familiar with that because Toshan is running a website where people can share anything with people free. Right?
Yeah, but online learning, you don't physically have to go to campuses or schools to learn English or a lot of other stuff these days thanks to the internet. So it's I think it's much more convenient than before. Yeah.
It is.
All right.
Right. And at this point, I want to more focus on the TOEIC test for test takers, for English learners. Is it okay for me to ask some questions for Sangmin.
Bring it on.
All right. So, so what do you think is the best way, best thing to get the highest score for English learners? What's the best way to improve? What do you recommend?
There's no single, silver bullet that you can use to get high score, because, see, every learner is different, right? And how they get motivated and what works for one person may not work for another, right?
Yes, exactly.
So that kind of question is very difficult, but something that I can say is that someone probably first need to master listening. Get the high score from listening, because I think when even, see, if you look at baby or children, how the way they learn language is they learning from listening, right? And there are many people who say that learning different languages as an adult is very different from learning languages from early age. But I think the learning from listening is probably common for both adult and children. So to get higher score, someone probably has to master listening part first, and then once he or she feels more comfortable about how they listen conversations or movies, even radio stations in English, then they could probably move on to deeper studying part of reading. For example, take articles of English papers or magazines.
Right. And what you're trying to say is not focus only on the TOEIC test, right?
Yes.
So develop your extensive knowledge and extensive comprehension in learning English, right?
Right. What do you think about Toshi-san?
I think it's a more fun way to learn English, because some people they literally focus on making high scores in TOEIC, right? They just learn only strategy, and that's what they start with. But if you start with listening to authentic English, like you said, the radio or even TV, and they should get used to listening to English first. And once they feel comfortable, and they can just start maybe studying for the TOEIC. But I think the exposure to English, and that works for adult people as well, that I agree. Because in my opinion, many Japanese people, we have to study English as one of the subjects in school.
Right.
And I think that a lot of people already have a good vocabulary. Yet having the good vocabulary doesn't directly mean that you have a good listening skill.
Yeah,
because you're not used to hearing English sound. So then you should just get yourself to be used to hearing English first, right? Well, that's the way I learn English as well. So I agree with what you said. I started with listening to AFN. It's a AM radio in Japan, 810.
Okay.
They air in English 24 hours a day. And when I was in college, I started out listening to the radio all the time because I like radio. And it worked out for me pretty well because I listen to radio anyway. So you said you recommend studying English, or do something in English, right, instead of studying English itself.
Right.
And that's what I did in the first place already. I, enjoyed listening to radio in English instead of studying English itself. And that just gave me motivation to study more.
Just because you liked it. You did it.
Yes. Yeah.
And that kept you going and moving forward.
Right.
That's a good point.
So,
Oh.
but what about? I have a question.
Go ahead.
What about for those who don't like English itself, and how? Because some of the students that I teach, they have a zero motivation for studying English, and
Same here.
Yeah, and that's because they just don't like English, but they have to study for TOEIC because of
the company requires.
So to like to motivate him to study for TOEIC and English, is there any specific advice I should give to him? If you have any thoughts on that?
See, well, as I mentioned in the beginning of the show, see, we live in, like, after internet era, and people should understand the importance of understanding English, especially reading, because now they need to, because, like, if they don't get those information from internet in English, they will really, like, left behind.
Right.
And everyone else will live in the future, but he or she who doesn't understand English will live in the past. And it is, well, I don't know how to say, but it is really, like, up to their choice whether they will join the force or they will just live as it is in the past.
Right. So can I ask a question for Sangmin? So does the same situation go for Korea?
Same situation, what do you mean by that?
Go for the same situation, so in Japan there's so many people have a motivation for getting the highest score on the TOEIC test to be able to fully understand English and adding some value to what we are. But in Korea there must be so many people who are trying to get a higher score on the TOEIC test.
Yes.
To be able to fully understand English or get a higher position at work or get better work. So do Koreans have the same motivation?
Yes. Well, see, the competition is even higher in Korea because Korea is really, like, a small country, and it has 50 million people living in Korea. So the domestic market is really small, and with, like, 50 million people living in such a small country, we have no choice but go abroad, right? But if we compare the market size and the number of, like, people in Japan, I think still for Japan it's still, like, relatively sustainable within just, like, domestic markets. So I think there is, like, less motivation, and I think that is the reason probably not so many, like, companies actually ask, like, English abilities from their employees compared to, like, companies in Korea. I think for Korea, if one wants to get a job after, like, graduating from university, he or she probably has to at least probably 720 in TOEIC score. And if you compare that to Japan, I don't have the exact, like, number, but for a Japanese university student, the average score would be, like, lower than 600.
Yes.
And what Sangmin said just now is related to what Toshi-san just said, right? So people in Japan have lower motivation. How would you motivate them? How would you motivate those who have lower motivation? to get the highest score on the test?
So, well, I have to repeat myself again, right? See, the Japan is also changing, right? If you look at the companies who, like, try to use English as an official language, I think there is really big change that some companies have made in, like, last couple of years. For example, I think, like, Rakuten, they have made such a, like, change, and I believe also which company is it? Uniqlo. Yeah, I think they also made, like, similar change. And also, if we see earlier, right, when I lived in Japan back in 1999, a lot of, like, my folks from, like, Korea, they wanted to send me some, like, electronics to them because there are so many cool stuff made in Japan. But sadly, I think that is not true anymore. There are still, like, cool stuff, but not as many as we had back in, like, 1999, right? And now there are more, like, advanced developments have been made in, like, different countries, even in China, right? And I think lack of understanding in English is one factor that probably played what, like, we currently see, the situation what we currently see in Japan. And that is another reason why we should promote, like, English in general in Japan. And more specifically, I want to promote, like, reading and listening skills than, like, speaking.
Right. The point what you said is that so being able to speak English adds value to who you are. Right?
Yes. Well, not only just speaking, but also, like, further understand in terms of reading and listening to gather information.
Right. Ability to get some information.
Right.
Tosan, how do you feel about it?
I agree, because I just remembered something that I heard from the some podcast. I don't remember where that is in the world quite for sure, but there's somewhere in China or Malaysia that there's a young people, and they just couldn't afford to go to college, but they know how to read English, so they access to a lot of websites in English to learn to make an application. Like apps for, like, smartphones or tablet. So they couldn't go to college because they couldn't afford it, but they just started learning those stuff. I mean, to, like, how to make the apps, how to develop apps, and also the marketing and stuff. So they learned everything all by themselves, basically from the internet in English. They started their own company, right? And they started made their own apps, I guess. Then those people are very young, like even teenagers, but they're very successful selling their apps, just all over the world.
Right.
And a very good example of the people who succeeded because of, I mean, thanks to learning English, right? So if that's the point you made, I agree with that. So I think that many people in Japan, they feel like they're protected by the company.
Right.
But as long as they're protected, like if you're protected by something, and you feel like you're not the one who has to go abroad, you're not the one who has to go to, like, markets in foreign countries and kind of explore the market.
Right.
So you get spoiled, right?
Right. This is like a safest word. Safest place in the world.
Yeah. So
spoiled.
So somehow I try to make my students feel like you're the one who has to study English. I mean, when I try to motivate them, I always just talk about the story like this to make him feel like, you're the one who has to study English and go out there in other countries and explore, and in a business market. So
Is it how you motivate your students?
Yes, yes.
You try to get your students to realize what's important and what they can benefit from being able to speak English.
Yes.
It's a good way to.
Yeah. So like this is more like a teaching strategy, not a strategy for studying for TOEIC, but as a teacher, this is like part of my teaching strategy. Yes, and I always talk about this at the beginning of the course.
Well, Toshi-san, the word that you used is, I think, really good. The word that you mentioned, like, protected, right? And that is really true. But I think it used to be true, but not anymore. What I mean by that is, see, I think a lot of Japanese market have been protected and isolated because of the language barrier.
Right.
But word becomes flatter and flatter day by day. And there are a lot of services will be introduced in Japan from outside the world. And it is true that still for Japanese learning English is very limited still, but the learning of Japanese from outside world has been accelerated greatly, and there are a lot of people who can actually speak very good Japanese languages, for example in China, and also with the help of advancement in technology, I think the language barrier will become lower and lower, and a lot of probably foreign countries will come to Japan to penetrate market further. If we look at what happened to for example Sharp, right?
Right. They acquired.
Yes, I think similar changes. If if we don't change ourselves right now, I think it might be too late.
Yes, I agree. So the people often say globalization. In Japanese, the people say global, but the globalization, and it's not something that's happening in other countries. Actually, the globalization is coming to Japan.
Yeah, it's happening here.
They're coming here,
Right, it's taking place here. Now, let me add some information to what Sangmin said. So some people can be protected as of now by the company, but in some companies in Japan, some people who cannot speak English, who cannot understand English, can get demotion at work. That's happening. That's happening. That's a serious problem.
Yeah.
For those who don't speak English, who don't understand English. So that's one of their motivations.
Yes. But this is for going back to talk about a TOEIC. But I think TOEIC can be one of the things that motivates people to learn English.
Yes.
And I think I would say that's another benefit of the TOEIC. So say that everyone knows that it's important to study English, but they have to somehow get more motivation to study English more, and I think the TOEIC is very useful for that as well.
Yes.
So, okay, I know that I have to learn English, but then sometimes I get lazy, and sometimes I don't want to study it, and sometimes it's too busy for work. But the TOEIC kind of helps to make sure where you are,
right.
how far you've come, and this is exactly the same thing that one of my students told me. But
once you set up the target score, all we have to do is just try to get there.
Right.
So, and it's a good sign and a good measurement.
Yeah, for TOEIC, the test is, I think there are about 10 the official test, and also there are something called IP test as well. And the good thing about TOEIC is since there are like about 10 exams, so which is almost like once a month, you can like study for a month and you can validate what you have learned during that month through the exam, and you can like revise your like learning method if what you have studied hasn't been reflected in the score. So I think like some people, I've seen like many people who actually take like every exam of TOEIC like almost every month. So as Toshi-san mentioned, it actually motivates like many people who study English in that like way.
Yes.
Right. Yeah, the bottom line is, so we can benefit from taking the TOEIC test, right?
Yes.
In several respects, as long as we can utilize in the right way.
Yes.
Yes, exactly.
But then sometimes some of my students complain because there are some really tricky, confusing questions in TOEIC.
There are few like confusing questions on
Yeah.
I believe.
Well, since it is a test, right? There should be some ways of differentiating people, right?
Yeah, I agree.
But I think most of them are very straightforward, easy to understand.
I agree.
Easy to understand. But yeah, some of them are like tricky.
So that, I mentioned those tricky questions because maybe those tricky questions can even motivate people more to study for TOEIC in English, right?
Yeah.
All right, you're challenging me.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Anything can
I'll
be
take you
motivation.
on.
Right.
Yes,
anything can be your motivation. Cool. All right. So now that we only have just 1 minute to go, so my last question is for Sangmin.
Okay.
So how do you want people to be like by taking the TOEIC test? What would you expect?
They probably need to like first study, but they should also like focus on different materials that are available in English. So
let's say TOEIC takers.
Even for like TOEIC takers, they probably need to like read English newspapers, not only just like reading the test materials.
All right. So personal question. So what interests you most as of right now, Sangmin, about learning English? What interests you best?
In English?
Yeah, in English. What's the most interesting about learning English as of right now about you?
Sorry, Saren, could you come again? Question again?
What do you think is the most interesting thing about learning English for you?
Oh, okay. I got your question. Okay. The most important thing about learning English is to connect with more people.
The more you study, the more people you can get.
Right. Without knowing like English, I would haven't known like people that I currently know.
Like this situation, right? If we couldn't speak English, we couldn't meet.
Exactly.
At all. Right. We are connected in English.
Yes.
English connected us.
Very true.
Yeah, same here. It expands your world.
A lot.
A lot.
Yes.
All right. Thank you so much. Same here too. All right, Sangmin, do you have any like special announcements for viewers?
Well, we have a online shop. So if any of you folks who are watching this show, and if you're interested in buying Korean TOEIC related books, you can contact me or you can come to our website. Our website address is www.toeic.com. choimirai, choimirai.com. Thank you.
Is it available in Japan?
Yes.
Oh,
It is actually made for Japanese TOEIC takers.
all right. About how many materials do you have and do you offer?
We have currently about, I would say, 20 books. Yeah.
Right. Right. Thank you so much. And that's available. All of them are available online from
That's
Japan.
right. Yes.
Oh, cool. Cool. You better check it. Right. So I think it's time to say goodbye to viewers. And thanks so much. Thanks for being
Thank you
here,
very much.
Sami-san. Thank you so much. Right.
I enjoyed.
Yeah.
감사합니다.
Thanks,
Toshi-san. It's my pleasure to talk with you.
And I understand Sami-san is sharing, a lot of information on Twitter with English learners and test takers. And I think that's a great thing. Thank you so much.
Okay.
I hope you could keep it up. Thank you for being here.
And keep in touch, guys.
Sure. Yeah. Keep in touch. I'll get in touch with you as soon as possible.
Yes.
Thanks so much. Thanks for being here.
Thanks.
All right. So thanks so much. Just wave to viewers.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Thanks, guys.
See you here.